Welcome to an enlightening podcast from IslamPodcasts.com. We encourage our listeners to please comment and let us know how we can grow in our knowledge to better serve our community. Please remind your family and friends to also visit IslamPodcasts.com for engaging discussions on current events, Islamic guidance, Quran, tafsir, seerah, and much more.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. And welcome to Islamic Voices Live. Dear brothers and sisters, as in many ways it seems that we are on a verge of a very interesting change in the world. Many things are happening both in the East and the West. Of course, the Gaza war continues to go on, but it's creating rifts throughout the Muslim lands. Of course, these atrocities are beyond one can imagine, a genocide, to the point yesterday, United Nations finally seems like they had to also come out and say that this is a genocide. The attack on Qatar, which was unprecedented. I think even from the Middle Eastern, even from their standards. And then, of course, what's happening here in the United States with assassinations happening of public figures who are very well known in the political and elite classes. So, inshallah, to talk with all of this, we have Dr. Abu Talha with us. Of course, Dr. Abu Talha has been with us many a times on many different occasions, talking about many different specific events. But today, Abu Talha, you are in a process of writing a book, or I think it's almost ending. The book's name is going to be Middle East Paradigm Change. And then you said 4 + 2 and 1 + 0. We'll get into what those numbers actually mean. But Sheikh, I'm sure you know Brzezinski. Brzezinski, he wrote a very specific book, which I have it here. It's called Out of Control. And he says global turmoil on the eve of the 21st century. And he, at least in this book, he talks a lot about the growth of technology and hence growth of awareness in the masses, a type of awareness that is not good for the West, which could create turmoil. And then he compares it to other wars that took place, Iraq War, for instance, and World War I, World War II, all of these things. But he says that, look, these wars, when they took place, although they were terrible, disastrous, but they were not in the public eye as much as the kind of things that we see today. And what we're seeing with Gaza and what we are seeing, let's say, across the Middle East and the Muslim lands in general and across the world, to be very honest. And now even South America. So your book, it's coming out in a very interesting times. And you are talking about at least some type of a paradigm shift, it seems. Or is it, what do you mean by paradigm change?
I mean by the paradigm change or paradigm in general is that there is a view of the Middle East in the eyes of some policymakers, especially in the United States, and they are trying to model the Middle East according to this view. So that's their paradigm. The paradigm is that how do we perceive the Middle East? How it should be geopolitically stable, who is going to maintain stability in the Middle East. These are the main issues which are addressed in the book. And I took some historical view, actually recent history, not old history, starting from the aftermath of the Second World War, when the United States started playing a more decisive role in the world politics and regional politics.
Sheikh, World War II brought in the United States, as you mentioned, as a global power in the region. Today we have China. United States is concerned about China. Does that paradigm include China?
Well, no, the paradigm talks about the regional conflict. I avoided the talk about the world order and world politics. When China comes in the picture, then you are talking about world order. When Russia comes in the picture, you are talking about world order. When you talk
But we're
about
talking about regional.
yeah, when you talk about EU, there is partially regional and partially world order. Regionally, because Europe used to be the maintainer or the occupier or the dominant power in the Middle East and in Africa and somewhere in Southeast in Asia. That's why its role becomes important to understand. But in this book, I'm talking about the regional and specifically the Middle East region, because Middle East region is vital for the American interest in particular, and it's vital for stability regionally and then worldwide. Why? Because Middle East has the resources which are vital for the industrial world, for the energy. I'm talking about oil and gas and some minerals. It's vital because of its water straits and the pathways, which are very important, whether it's in the Bab el-Mandeb, whether it's Jabal Tariq, whether it's Hormuz, whether it's
all the waterways.
The Suez Canal. There are 6 out of the 7 most important water canals are in the Middle East. Number 3, Middle East is the host of an ideology, which is Islam, that at one point of time ruled more than 2/3 of the world. And this ideology has the capacity of revival one more time, which can, of course, change the shape of the world at large. So for these 3 reasons, the Middle East is vital and very important, and the United States wants to maintain its geographic, political stability according to some standard that the U.S. would like to see.
But the question remains, Abdullah, is United States capable of this? And the reason I ask you this is, I was listening to one of these politicians from Singapore, and it was a very interesting interview. In the interview, he says that, look, there are, according to him, there are many, there are global shifts of a kind taking place. And then he does mention, he says that, look, we no matter what, he is obviously in the region with China, but he says, and the Muslims are here. He mentioned this. So the Muslims are here. China is a world power. United States is there, but we cannot not count the Muslims. But that, the way he put it, he said, that is whenever they get their act together. And if they do.
But that's what I said, brother. I said that the Middle East main important 3 reasons why.
Understood this, but can United States really
achieve whatever
the paradigm in that in the Middle East? Is it possible with the role it's currently playing?
Well, that's it's very complicated question. But I have to mention that the United States has been building this paradigm since the end of the Second World War. From the time of the Truman Doctrine, Dean Acheson statue that he made as Secretary of State, that Middle East is absolutely vital. And the obstacles to maintain peace and stability in the Middle East, according to America at the time, is to make sure that the United States would be the only player. And that means to be able to replace the old British colonialism and the French colonialism, and then to reshape the Middle East according to the U.S. plans with complete hegemony. And that's going back to the point you mentioned about Brzezinski. Brzezinski, he actually pointed out that the United States cannot practice leadership, doesn't have the capability lead. It has the capability to pressure by hegemony. And actually he had his book, which is other than this one, The Choice between leadership and hegemony. So United States wants to hegemonize the area. What are the objectives? The objectives are clear. Financial, which is now financial has two sides. Economic, which is the economic resources, oil, gas, minerals. Financial is because of the petrodollar. Without the petrodollar, which was established 1974 by King Faisal of Saudi Arabia and President Nixon, where King Faisal vowed to sell the oil only in dollar and to force this upon OPEC, which is still continues until today. And that's why the Federal Reserve continue to be able to issue more than $4.5 trillion a year because of oil sale. Otherwise, it doesn't have any reason to issue dollars. It doesn't have any backup. The only backup, of course, there is a second backup, which is the U.S. Deficit, budget deficit, and the taxes, the American taxes. So the American taxpayers, they pay for issuing almost $1 trillion a year by the Federal Reserve, and that's the deficit of the budget, which is close to 1 trillion. It's about 850, 900 billions, but it's coming there. So let's say it's 1 trillion. And the other part is because of the petrodollar. So that's vital. So the Middle East is vital. Now, as I said, when the United States decided or put that Middle East on its map, on the table, I call it the game of nation table, which it's not my term, it's their term, the U.S. term. They found that this Middle East is divided and structured geographically, politically, according to the old British-French Sykes-Picot after the First World War. Now, Second World War evicted Britain and France from the world order officially.
Basically, redraw the maps.
Yeah, now they wanted to redraw the maps. And they started from that time, so this is not new. And I can go through quick historical perspective. United States started with Egypt. 1952, they were able to make a military coup. They brought the nationalists under the leadership of Abdel Nasser, and they became under the dominance of the United States. And when Britain wanted to challenge that, when they launched a war with France and Israel against the Egypt to prevent Egypt from nationalizing the Suez Canal, United States collaborated with the Soviet Union, and they evicted Britain and France, because to United States, Egypt was step number one. Step number two, United States had in its vision Iran. So they went all the way from Egypt to Iran, and that's back in 1953. That's now
Shah.
During the Shah. And that's the time when Mossadegh, he took over as a prime minister, and he evicted the Shah. United States now collaborated with Britain temporarily to be able to overthrow Mossadegh and bring the Shah back. Then U.S. was able to gain 40% of the Anglo-Iranian oil company. So that was step number one. And then United States continued to work on Iran through the threatening Iran, or at least claiming that it wanted to defend Iran against the Soviet Union. So they militarized Iran all the way until United States was able to support a revolution that overthrew the Shah, which is in 1979. And that revolution, it would not have succeeded without the direct involvement of United States. And today you can go back to any historical record, check for the role of General Huizer, the U.S. general of the Central European forces at the time. He was dispatched to Iran right before the arrival of Khomeini. He met with the top generals of the Iranian army, and after the meeting with top generals, the army sided on the side of the revolution. And they told the Shah, these are the people, you deal with them. We are not here to crush the people. And of course, that means it's like a military coup. So now, so from 1950, they were able to get Egypt, then Iran. And Egypt used to be a British colony. Iran was also part of the British dominance at the time. And that's why when I said before 1953, the oil, the Anglo-Iranian oil company was 90% owned by British Petroleum and by the British. So, which is very important. So now, United States continued looking at the map. Next, after Iran, they put their eye on Iraq. Now, Iraq again used to be a British colony from the time of the building the kingdom in Iraq, and then the military coups, and even Saddam. Today, all the declassified documents, they show the relationship between the Ba'ath regime and Britain. So now, United States pushed the crisis in Iraq, and in my book, I go on the details of that, how that happened, the role of April Gillespie, and the
the role of Iraq in meaning the Iran-Iraq war.
Yeah.
The first Iran before the Gulf.
The Iran-Iraq war, and then the invasion of Kuwait, and then the United States took that invasion of Kuwait as a pretext to occupy Iraq. And they did. Of course, they did not occupy it immediately. It took them from 1992 until 2003. So after that. And of course, during this time, they established very strict regime of sanctions on Iraq, on the oil sale, on financial support.
But this is what I'm saying, Dr. Talha. This time, 2025, does the United States have the wherewithal?
Sure,
but you're saying you're giving two descriptions. One is leadership, and the other one is
hegemony.
Yes. Meaning, in this case, direct.
Overpowering the local.
But you're saying now it's leadership.
No leadership. United States does not practice leadership. The United States.
So it's just conquer.
Absolutely not. It cannot do that, because leadership requires ideological type of implantation,
some type of infrastructure,
relying on
ideas,
intellectual people to run the country and to have some cooperations in favor of the U.S. The United States cannot do that. It did not practice that. It came out of the Second World War victorious, strong, relying on their power. So they enjoyed this because it's the simplest way of control, is to have power, overpower. And I will come to this even more during the discussion. Now, after the war in Iraq, so now you can start counting. The United States has overpowered Egypt, Iran, and now Iraq. Now, what's remaining? Remaining was Saudi Arabia,
Turkey, Qatar.
Let's put Turkey aside.
The Gulf region.
Yeah. Now, Saudi Arabia, because of the monarchy, there were two options. And this was reported by one of the old ex-ambassadors to Saudi Arabia. His name William Safir, back in the 80s. He used to be the ambassador. And he put two ways of dominating Saudi Arabia. Either just like other countries, like Egypt and some others, where the monarchy will change, or to have the monarchy be subjugated to the United States through different means. He did not talk about the specifics, but that was the way. So now, United States was able to recruit some of the monarchs, including King Fahd, who lived many years of his life in Las Vegas as a gambler. And that was a place where he was recruited. And then after that, of course, Salman, the father of the current crown prince, And then MBS, of course, we know the relations of MBS with the United States, and it's like an intimate relationship. So now the Saudis, they are also under control. And of course, there was, remember when I mentioned King Fahd, remember the United States had established military bases in Saudi Arabia after 1992, when they launched about 500,000 soldiers to attack Iraq. And then, of course, many of these, there are several bases which are still in Saudi Arabia.
Jeddah. And is this the okay? So when they moved to Qatar, when the Americans moved their bases to Qatar,
It doesn't. They built
CENTCOM
base in Qatar. They did not remove the bases from Kuwait, neither from Bahrain, neither from Emirat, UAE.
Emirat is complete base.
So they have bases, and even they extended that to Jordan. Now those bases, the military bases, if you notice, United States removes its bases sometimes, like from Iraq, when they have complete dominance now over the country through the government that they established it there, and through the even the political or military parties and factions. They have been all supported by the United States. So now they don't need the bases. And I'm coming now. United States wants actually to remove this idea of building stability, their own stability, through their own power. That's the idea. So now we have Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and most recently they had almost complete hegemony over Syria after 13 years of revolution. Of course, the Syrians, the problem with Syria used to be the military coups, because every now and then, if you leave it to the army can shift loyalties between United States, Britain, and could be some even free. So now with the revolution, after 13 years of the revolution, where they supported both parties in order to make them all weak. So Bashar ended up absolutely weak without any power. His only power was external, Russia and Iran. And Russia and Iran they left by orders. There was no threat to their existence. It was the US decision that it's over, now we can control Syria. So now they have Syria. Now, the irony which people don't know, and they still don't understand that, and that's what my conclusion of the book, that the only obstacle today, the only obstacle to final hegemony of the United States on the Middle East, to be able to shape it the way it wants, is the state of Israel. And I'm sorry to use the word, because I'm using the name simply because I don't recognize that terminology of recognition, but it's the name. So Israel is the only one that continues to resist final stability in the Middle East, because to them, to the Israelis, they think stability would mean they're vanishing over time, because they don't belong to the sea of Arabs and Muslims in the area, so they might lose. And that's why now, as we have seen in Qatar, let me jump immediately here, when the Israelis, they saw that there is a potential of acceptance for the Trump's latest proposal by the delegation which was in Qatar, they went and bombarded Qatar in the heart of the place where the negotiation is taking place. That was according to almost all commentators who are talking, like the latest summit by the OIC, Organization of Islamic States, and the Arab countries. They unanimously said this attack is on Qatar to blow up the peace process. And even the Hamas leader, Osama Hamdan, he came up and they said the target was not our negotiators, the target was the Trump paper, which was under negotiation. So today, the majority of the Middle East, the way the United States wanted to see it, is under its dominance, especially with the biggest power powers: Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Of course, since Erdogan came to power, he lined up with the United States policies. Before Erdogan, the Turkish army used to be almost semi-independent from the United States, except for the NATO part, which is NATO is for, this is part of Europe in general. But in general, Turkey foreign policy used to be shifted more towards the old British colonialism and some of the Turkish nationalism.
So, but just to align with, are you saying that the latest conference that took place after the attack on Qatar, can someone look at that and say this is actually formation of the blocks that they want in the Middle East?
Well, not really. It just resonates because most of these countries, if not all of them, the one who were present, either under direct dominance of the United States and hegemony, or they had to align with its policies because of their fear that they could overthrow them at any point of time. So this summit reflects the vision of the United States over the Middle East. And that vision, as I put it in the book, at the end of the day, is to build a consortium in the Middle East that could overlook the stability, which means the geography should be final. No one is going to change the geography of the Middle East. Political systems should remain stable as is. That's what geopolitical means, geographic and political. And then ideological, so that no new ideology can rise from the Middle East, which is Islam, of course. Now, in order to do that, United States has two options: either to maintain its military bases and to do it by force, like they did in Iraq, like they did in Syria, like they do it now in the Gulf, where their bases are there, and this is very expensive, or it should be done internally. And that is where the paradigm comes in. The United States wants its final vision, which was described in one of the strategic articles that came from the Brookings Institute, 2018, built on previous report which appeared 2006, saying that local consortium, and I would call it, this is my term, council, just like the Security Council, Middle East Council, that consists of 4 states: Iran, Turkey, Iran, plus Turkey, plus Israel, plus Saudi Arabia, 4. In addition to that, there will be guarantor, which is US plus Russia. So that's why we call it 4 plus 2. Now, if you think about that, each and every one of these states had a stake in the stability. Now, Israel has a stake because its existence is under threat. So without it being part of this council, it will never accept any stability. Number one. Iran has an objective for that stability, and that includes the continuous flow of energy sources, because it has lots of oil and gas, and Iran has another ideological objective, which is it does not want to see the rise of a new Islamic state in the area, because a new Islamic state based on the Khilafah concept, or they call it Caliphate, but the Khilafah, it means a direct threat to the Persian nationalistic coupled with Shi'i school of thought. So to them, they would be more than willing to crush that once it comes out. Turkey is the same. Remember that Turkey is the place where they lost the Khilafah in 1924. So the rise of Khilafah in any other place in the Middle East is a direct threat to the integrity of Turkey. Because now you lost the Khilafah, now we are bringing it back. So you better follow, or you better be a part of it. And that is, to Turkey, that is essential. Now, Saudi Arabia, again, just like Turkey, Saudi Arabia for the last 100 years played a role of pacifying Islam, providing an image of Islam as being just follow up any leader, no matter who that leader is, even if that leader would be the most corrupt in the world. You just have to listen and obey and shut up. That's their. So to them, the rise of a new vision of the Islam based on the old vision at the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a threat to their own existence and to their viability. So these 4 states were selected, and actually the report that came from Brookings Institute discusses all of these issues: why Iran, why Israel, why Turkey, why not Egypt, why not Jordan, why not Qatar, why not all of these, and that's anyway that's documented. So the issue here is United States since 1950 is pursuing the same objective, never changed that. And it is
So what we are seeing is just a continuation.
yeah. And they're only just to make sure that everybody picks this. Currently, the war in Gaza, one of the objectives of the Israelis is to prevent the final conclusion of that new Middle East until and unless Israel decides its final borders, it decides its final demography, which is a pure Jewish state, and it also guarantees that it has superiority, military superiority. And that's what the conflict between Israel and the United States regarding the nuclear armament in Iran. United States wants that nuclear armament. Israel wants to defy that.
But but these are not independent states in any way. These are just, still under the American tutelage, but they are, I guess.
You mean about the 4 states?
Right. They're a council.
Yeah. And are the
most powerful, I guess the most influential states.
Locally, in the Middle East.
In the Middle East, in the region. Yeah. And then they have, in some ways, they manage the affairs in the Middle East.
They have to.
Yeah. Doesn't that, you don't think that makes the United States vulnerable?
Well, no, because I said it's +2. See,
with the United States
and Russia.
And Russia.
Now, why Russia? Because Russia is willing to play with the United States whatever it wants. It was proven in Syria. For 13 years, it came to the aid of American vision of Syria. And when America finished that game, Russians, they were willing to leave without any objection. So Russia is willing to be with the United States to maintain this council.
But Russia is in war with Ukraine. Lost 10 people so far.
That's fine. Russia is a big country. It's a super country. It's a country that's militant since 1917. Has never been below that. And actually, I don't want to go to the world order. We may have a podcast on this. Russia went into Ukraine in favor of the United States, in favor of the U.S. Russia does not have any interest whatsoever in fighting Ukraine.
So, hold on. So you're saying this was, well, I guess that would go into world order issues, but you're saying this was to maybe shake up Europe.
Of course.
Okay. So
don't you remember?
No, I understand. So you're saying, this was to create an environment that would shake up Europe to continuously
scare the hell out of Europe
in order to keep the status quo.
Of course,
meaning continuation of NATO as NATO.
No, exactly. And this is, if anyone still doubts that, look at the last statement of Biden. Now, before Biden, almost everybody every big politician in America mentioned that this war is about Europe. Now, Biden, at one point of time, he was forced to spell it out. When the Republican Congress, at the time, his last year in presidency, there was a group of Republicans who threatened that we will not allow financing the war in Ukraine anymore. We will not approve the budget. what did Biden say? He said, these guys, about the Republican senators, it was in the Senate, they do not understand the U.S. foreign policy. Pay attention.
No, I do remember
He
that.
said they don't understand. They still think the war is about Ukraine. Damn it, the war is about Europe. This is that.
That's interesting, because one day we should have maybe a discussion on how what is the level of thinking even between the senators and the congressmen and all this, or the House. But here, one can look at this, Talha, and say, okay, look, the formation of a council in the Middle East. Can't one say that that's United States is saying that it doesn't want to busy itself there?
Exactly.
Okay.
It does not want to use its forces
And resources.
directly.
Okay.
It wants to make this
Diverted.
local and
Right.
with the supervision of the United States and Russia.
Does that make U.S. vulnerable?
No, not at all. In fact, this is their dream. Look, if I was them,
Is that because that could give infrastructure in the minds of the Muslims that they are free?
it will, according to the U.S. policymakers and think tank on this issue, that will allow the Middle East to flourish, to become more economically developed. And
That's what I'm saying. I guess the Muslims might think they are at least
right. And we in the United States would benefit from that, because what we need from there is the continued flow of the resources without any interruption, continued use of the water pathways without any, and in fact,
But the problem in all of this is Israel,
the one that
or at least the final.
right, because the final
status.
until today, Israel is not going along with the policies until and unless. Now Israel does not mind at the end of the day, but before that happens, they have to straighten their own existential
Threat. They need to know where they belong in the Middle East.
not only what they belong, how big they are, who they are, and what their strategic power is. Now, these three issues, the demography, today the Jewish state will not be a Jewish state by 2050. If it continues, Palestinians inside Israel. And if
They're worried about
Israel annex the West Bank, it will not be 50 years, probably by 2040. The majority are going to be Palestinians. So they are worried about their identity as Jewish state.
Right.
And remember, right after October 7th, when Biden visited Israel, standing next to Netanyahu, pointing at him, says, we are absolutely committed to a Jewish state. Jewish state means expel all Palestinians out. So that's what they want. And I think I mentioned on this podcast here with the Islamic Oasis, October 7, 2022, not 2023. 2023 was Tufan al-Aqsa, starting the war. 2022, 1 year earlier, an article in Hearts written by an ex-Knesset member, Israeli Knesset member, saying that this Jewish state is under threat. We have to expel Palestinians from historic Palestine, the one before the 1948 Palestine. And he said, even if it takes a war, we have to invent a war to do that. You see that? So this is vital.
I mean, Biden mentioned if there was no Israel, then he will invent new Israel.
Yeah, that's another one. But not only
you're saying that statement is also it's the same policy is being discussed now.
This is policy.
That was the idea.
Yes, the idea is, number one. That's what. Let me repeat. Israel will not enable or allow or accept this United States hegemony over the entire Middle East through whatever, whether it's 4+2 or America, Russia alone or America alone, will not accept it. Maybe You can break their bones, and then they have to. But as long as they enjoy one necessity for their existence by the Western world, they need three things. Number one, as I said, they want to be the only superior military power
In the region.
using nuclear. That's why they use the current events to attack the Iranian nuclear warfare. Although Iran did not get involved in the war. Iran stayed away from the war all the time. It tried as much as possible. Israel tried to pull Iran. Number one, when they attacked Tehran and they killed Ismail Haniyeh there in order to provoke the Iranians.
Yeah, they attacked the embassy in Syria.
Those were considered external actions. But inside Iran, during the war, Israel tried to pull Iran as much as possible so that they can bombard their nuclear facilities, hoping that they can end the Iranian nuclear program. Why? Because Israel knows that America wants Iran to become part of the Middle East structure. And if Iran is a nuclear power, Israel loses its superiority. So that's critical. And if you remember, when Israel actually started launching the attacks, which were very serious, United States got involved immediately, told the Israelis, stay aside, we will take care of that. And then within 2 hours, they said everything is done. Now everybody knows that nothing was done. It did not do anything, but it was to shut up the Israelis. Because America does not want Israel to remain the only superior power. It just wants those three big countries, Turkey, Iran, Israel, to be at the same level. No one is better than the other. So
that's a power.
So that's why Israel is obstacle. Number one, it does not accept the so-called equal strategically strong countries, the nuclear program with Iran. Number two, which is very important, the borders. That's why Israel wants to annex most of Gaza strip, if not all, the West Bank, and even part of Jordan, which they just mentioned, and no one is making a big fuss out of that. Netanyahu, he showed the map and he said, this is a spiritual, religious obligation upon me to achieve this big map, which includes big portion of Syria, big portion of Jordan, and even part of Saudi Arabia and part of Lebanon. Israel wants that border to be established before they can go into stability. If they can get that, then they will tell America, okay, now we are ready.
So now this whole, in Syria, you have Sueda and all this area have been taken because they are pushing the Syrians out from that area. It seems like there's almost a demographic change already happening.
Yeah, and at least the Golan Heights is annexed. Period.
Yeah, it's done. So this is done. So now the new
they need more
security establishment they're doing, and then that would include Sueda and all that. But I want to ask you two questions just to see how viable this is. The internal chaos in the U.S., Sheikh. I mean, what is your assessment of what is taking place internally? The only reason I ask you this question is because, I mean, obviously it has to be stable internally in order to at least figure out what's happening. Number one, the Muslims will accept this. Before asking the question of internal stability here, but within this region, you are thinking the Muslims, your assessment of the Muslims, they will accept this
in the
new
Middle East?
Yes.
Well, no. That's why I said.
But you're saying this is the plan.
Yeah, this is the plan.
That doesn't mean it will happen.
Yeah. Well, it almost 90% had happened. Until today, 90% had happened. The only, as I said, United
I mean,
States
it just needs to be clear.
No, still, they cannot declare it. I said there is one element.
Because of Israel.
America dominated
so now
hegemony.
Here's the thing. So Israel is not yet, it has not accepted the final status.
Israel.
That is the borders.
No, Israel accepts the theme.
Okay.
The theme is
they understand. Fine. So the overarching idea
they
they
want
understand.
they want to finish their due diligence
Understood.
first.
But now, okay, so that means it's a bigger, it is a big player and a piece of this plan.
It's a big player and hurdle.
But that also include, okay, so it's a player and hurdle.
Yes.
For the US also.
Right, for the US. And the US knows that. That's why the US is trying to push Israel to the limit. Finish up your business.
But it can't. Because this is the only opportunity. I mean, can.
Look,
There's
what
a lot of
I'm saying
questions
is
in my mind, but
Israel, wait a second. Israel found an opportunity that is $1 trillion worth opportunity. It's not even $1 billion or a million.
with October 7th.
With October 7. And after that, they said, this is our chance. If we don't utilize this to the fullest extent, it will go for at least 10, 15 years before we start again. So that now Israel is committed, all of Israel, even the ones who criticize Netanyahu, etc., they criticize him simply because his tactics may not line up with them. Yeah. But today, if they change Netanyahu and they bring one of those, the other party, they will continue doing the same. They will continue the war. They will continue the
I
annexation.
think this has been the issue from Sharon to whatever.
So Israel does not mind this overall stability if that guarantees their stability and existence. And they know, in fact, this is what Netanyahu has been saying from the day one, this is existential war. It means either we exist or none.
I mean, now it has put itself in a situation too.
From day one, they said.
Okay, so now, but I need to still understand. Who's the hurdle here? Of course, one is Israel. We've pointed that out because it has its own understanding of what it wants, the idea of greater Israel or at least final borders. But the Muslims, you are saying, or at least I'm not willing to accept that the Muslims will accept this.
No, I said, look, Muslims, there are two types of Muslims. There are Muslims which are the public, general public, and there are the elites. The elites in the Muslim world accepted that without any...
That's why they're the elites. I mean, at least...
Now, the Muslims as masses, as people, they will never accept that, neither today nor tomorrow. And they will always look up for their own solution. And that's why United States is speeding up this new Middle East version in order to suppress that Muslim mentality or to make the job of Muslims absolutely impossible. In other words, today, if those Muslims, especially the ones who are working for the revival of Islam,
those who are aware, those who understand the situation,
they want the revival, they want a new state, they want Islamic state. If they succeed today, they succeed in starting a nucleus somewhere in Egypt, Algeria, Tunis, Syria, Iraq, anywhere, then the probability and the chance of standing up and against the heat that will be against them is very high. And to be able to expand in the Middle East and to dominate the Middle East is possible. And the only ones who would be today, who would try to crush that and fight it, it has to be America by its own forces. And America knows that once it has their forces against Islam and the Muslims, then that will bring up a big chaos against them. The United States will not dare do that. So that's why the US, part of their vision is to build this new Middle East so that if these Muslims are able to make a nucleus anywhere, then those four states, the zombie states, will crush them internally. And it will look as if this is Turkey, the Muslims, this is Turkey, the Muslims, Turkey, the Iran also, Shias, Muslims, Israel, Saudi Arabia, all of them will gang against this new state. So the whole issue, as I said, one of the major objectives of a new Middle East paradigm supported by internal counsel is to make sure that ideological stability remains as is today. So aside from the oil and gas and petrodollar and water resources and the geography, the major objective is to prevent the rise of any new state, and the only state that can rise and make a real problem to the overall U.S. dominance in the area, and it can challenge the world order as well, is the rise of an Islamic state. And it did prove in the past 1400 years that once the state comes up and starts, eventually it will become a world power. So that's very dangerous. So that's why I'm sorry to say, we as Americans or as the United States, we want to make sure that this doesn't happen. Now, for that, which is fortunately or unfortunately, the so-called Muslim states today, the Arab Muslim states, they are all in line with the United States policy. And they don't mind it.
Let me ask you this. So is this because one of the questions are asked that, okay, with the kind of, for instance, what just happened in Qatar, just a bombing, Israel at will just bombs, although I see you're saying that this was done, this bombing is done why exactly? I mean, this is not to kill the leadership of Hamas.
No.
Because obviously they didn't, they didn't do it, but this was to end what Trump was asking for. I mean, because he was trying to put, but if you're saying
to kill
the idea,
the ticket that could lead to,
that doesn't, that goes against what you're saying.
Why?
Because if he wants peace, if Trump,
look, Trump wants peace. No, Trump doesn't want peace. Forget the word peace and war. Forget.
You're saying that bomb was to end that idea that there could be any type of ceasefire now.
Look, ceasefire now or war. So these are tactics. These are tactics. Today's tactics. Usually you talk about overall policy. Overall policy, America, whether it's Trump or non-Trump, this has nothing to do with Trump. Overall policy, we want to reach a time and a situation where we can control all the events in the Middle East through these four guys. Okay, number one. Now, the war that started 2023, which is almost 2 years ago, Israel knows the American plan more than us, more than anyone else. They know what America wants to do. Now, to them, if America succeeds in building a new Middle East, that means Israel remains that tiny little state.
But Sheikh, the rest of the Muslim lands, they don't know this is the plan?
Oh, they do.
Okay.
They do.
Then the issue remains at the end, Gaza?
The issue at the end remains not Gaza.
The people.
Not even the people. The issue that remains today is Israel does not accept to go along with the plan until it achieves its objectives. Unfortunately, Muslims are not part of the Muslims as people.
But hold on. I just want to break this apart a little bit. So when Israel is saying what it's saying, that look, if we were to end this war now and go with the plan, the council, fine, they'll still be part of the council, but they will not be as big as everybody else. Let's say Turkey, Iran, and the others. If the plan is known amongst the members already, is that because it may eliminate Jordan? It may eliminate some of the things.
It will eliminate Jordan.
And this, why not just go with the plan?
Because Israel does not accept it as is.
Oh, you're saying
that's it.
U.S. is saying no, that's enough.
No, United States from day one of the war, they told the Israelis, do whatever you want to do, just do it fast and finish.
Okay.
Which means America does not mind Israel becoming bigger.
It's in favor. It's in the favor of the U.S.
It's both in favor of the U.S. and
it just will be more bloody.
It's at least they don't mind it. Let's put it this way. They don't mind it.
Okay.
United States doesn't mind also now having a Middle East today stable the way Israel is. America doesn't mind because they say we will protect you. Now Israelis, because now Israel, remember,
because of the internal dynamic
situation, and also remember Israel was not created by the United States.
But
Israel still they believe the Jews, they believe that they have been created by Britain for a very strategic reason, not because Britain likes the Jews. By the way, I in my book you'll find a quote, a real quote. Balfour, the foreign minister of Britain, who made that declaration to give Palestine as a homeland for them, is known among the politicians is one of the most racist against Jews.
right. He wrote, it's very
He's known about that.
right.
Now, so when he made that declaration, is not for the sake of the Jews, because he wants them to have a safe haven, and not to evict them from Europe either. But he thought that this state, the way it is, as an alien state, it will become like a throne, like a needle in the throat of the whole Muslim world or the Middle East. So that could prevent the unity with the Middle East, the re-rising again of the Khilafah that they almost destroyed it by that time. So it's strategic. Israel knows that. And America, as Biden said many times, if it did not exist, we would have created it. So they know that. So therefore, the Israelis, knowing this, they know that America can pressure them, but cannot break them. So today, Israelis are claiming that, look,
But Israel is not independent.
no, they are not. They are not. They rely on the West for their existence, but they know
That they are
important to
also,
them.
in many ways, existential for the U.S.
For the
interest
for the hegemony of the U.S.
of the U.S.
So Israel knows their value, and they know that if they will go after their own dreams, United States will not stop them, but will tell them, do it and do it fast. That's what we keep hearing from the U.S.
Right. And we are literally
But there is a new element that came through the war, which I think U.S. now is smarter than the Jews themselves, saying you want to expand, you want to strengthen your country, you want to become a real country, you have to pay the price.
I mean, you fight the war.
Until today, until October 7th, Israel did not pay not 1% even, not 1 out of 1,000 of the cost of any war like this. 1948, they were given the Palestine. 1967, the Arab armies, they withdrew and allowed Israel to occupy. 1973, there were skirmishes, and then the U.S. stopped the war of Egypt immediately and made that peace treaty with them. United States helped Israel do all these treaties with Egypt and with the Abraham Accord and so on. So Israel did not pay a price. Now, and that's the new thing, which the American politicians or policymakers, whether it's Trump or Biden, is irrelevant. This is America saying, okay, you want to become big, pay the price. You want to be strong, pay the price. Now you have to pay your own blood. Just like we paid our own blood in Pearl Harbor, in the Second World War, we did not become superior country for no reason. No one does that. You, Jewish state, you have not paid a single penny for your own existence. Now you have to pay. So that once you pay the price for that, you pay your blood, you pay your money, you suffer out of this, then it becomes part of your history, recent history, that you have to defend this state at any point because we need you, not because you need yourself. Because America and Europe, they need Israel here as one element that can be used always to crush the rise of any ideological state. Even if Iran can back off, or Turkey can back off, it's possible, or Saudi Arabia can back off in case something happens in the Middle East.
This is what I want to get to here.
Then Israel will not back off. Israel will not back off. And that is
now, Sheikh,
that's why they need it.
because look, the name of the book 4+2.
Yeah.
So we kind of have the idea of what that means.
What's the 1+0?
Yeah, this is the issue now. It's 1+0. Sheikh, before I go to 1+0, your assessment of United States internal issues in order for it to dominate.
Yeah. You asked this question.
Yes.
I'm sorry I did not answer it. But listen, going back to Brzezinski and even to Kissinger, since the end of the Second World War, United States realized one major concept that very few people talk about, although there are some, you find it in the literature, that America does not have an identity. There is nothing called American identity. The only identity that America can have is once it's in crisis with the others. The only time they got an identity of an American when they fought against the Indians here. So these are the...
I mean, well, this is known. I mean, with the Soviet Union, there was some type of unity within the United States. There was there. And then you had, after that, 9/11 against the Muslims again, and they created this whole thing. But it comes to a question, though, Sheikh, is that whenever the United States does not have an external enemy, it kind of goes crazy internally. And it's happening.
Actually, I want to say more than that. The internal so-called differences and chaos below that sea level, there are storms. United States lives on a storm. A storm that they have created it by their capitalism, their fake democracy, through the so-called racial discrimination,
profiling,
poverty. More than 80% of the capital goes to less than 1% of the population.
And not only that, 60%, this is the thing, Talha, is that one of the reasons, and the reason I'm asking you this is that when they were talking about what happened to Charlie and this whole assassination thing, and the kind of support, let's say, Trump was able to get, things like this, and that he could get still, or at least the right, this whole thing, right and left, we came to that one time, but over 60% of the population, just the reading levels in the United States, 60% of the population reads below 6th grade. So that's the internal combustion. That's
if I were to do the statistic analysis and to go to public opinion, I would find that more than 90% of the Americans hate what is called the internal structure of America and are willing to overthrow it, are willing to make revolutions that you have never seen in the history. America is very violent.
Yes.
American people are very violent, whether in the South or the North or wherever. They are armed. They have
Is that
lots
also
of...
because they have lived free, in a sense that they've never been occupied?
Not only that, no, because they have been misled and they have been lied upon. Because they were told that you will live a free life and you will be the ones who run the affairs of the country. They found out that all of this is a hoax. It's a hoax. AIPAC can select and choose whoever congressman or senator will be. The Federal Reserve and the bankers can swipe everyone in front of them in order to remain wealthy and rich. 2008
even to the point it went as far as to say, I was speaking to one African American brother this morning. He was saying that, look, man, if you look at all of these podcasters who became so well known, actually became wealthy creating racism. That's the whole idea, was to literally capitalize on this idea. And you're talking about podcasts that were making 18 million, $100 million a year.
That it doesn't take a brainer to understand that. It doesn't need the YouTuber, doesn't need anyone who lives in America, who knows the American public, who knows what is called layoff. I've been laid off twice from my jobs, 2 times. Layoff, you could be the most productive engineer or doctor in your work simply because the top shareholders, they are not getting as much revenue or profit as possible, So they say, get out how many people? Just like Motorola at one point of time, back in the early 2000s, 150,000 people in less than 6 months.
Yeah.
Why? Motorola at that time was making profit more than any time in its history. But because they said, oh, we have so many employees who take about $12 billion a month, salaries, etc., kick their butts out. Get them. So America knows that. So now, what prevents America from revolting? What prevents civil war? What prevents actual taking over the streets is having an external enemy that can threat the United States. So people say, calm down until we solve that problem. But we will never solve it. And if the Soviet Union disappeared, Kissinger, his famous statement was, if America was wise enough, it would not have allowed the Soviet Union to collapse. That's our life.
So is China that model?
China, United States, main problem with China, because China does not want to play the enemy. China does not want
and
to play
China knows that.
Of course, China knows that.
Okay, so China is saying,
I will tell you more. I'll tell you more. America built China from scratch, from zero.
Right, that's what I was asking.
Supported their economy, made them technologically high. Look at this, the Chinese telecom, what's the name of the Chinese telecom company? Huawei.
Yeah.
You know, Huawei, 1997, was a tiny little company that does not have any existence. Who made Huawei that big? If you need, you can have a podcast with me on this issue. Motorola did, knowing that this would make Huawei giant.
Interesting.
And I was part of Motorola at the time. And I was part of the meeting that started or began building Huawei. I know the details for that. That's not, I'm not relying on any sources. It's my own source. It's myself. And that year, 1999, this was the case, this issue which I'm talking, 1997, New York Times published an article saying that if United States wants China to become the next Soviet Union as a foe, we have to build China.
So you need an enemy all the time. But at this,
and that's what Brzezinski mentioned.
Why is it? But now you have immigration become an issue. Let me read.
I want to finish one statement which I missed. Today, if America does not have the proper enemy and does not have the proper engagement in bloody world affairs, the next day you will have the trouble come up at that storm which I said beneath the sea level. It will come up to the surface and it will be a disaster.
Let me read this. I mean, this is kind of going with what you're saying, but this is an interesting article saying Civil War Comes to the West, Part 2, Strategic Realities. And it's written by Bob Katz. He's been around for a while now. He's a professor of War College in London, King's School of London. But this is what he says. This is the second of the two articles on the dawning of an uncomfortable new strategic reality for the West, which is that primary threat to its security and well-being today is not external but internal, specifically civil war. In the first essay, I explained the reasons that this situation has arisen, why this situation has arisen. He says a combination of culturally fractured societies, number 2, economic stagnation, number 3, elite overreach and collapse of public confidence in the ability of normal politics to solve problems, and ultimately the realization by anti-status quo groups of plausible strategies of attack based on systems disruptions of vulnerable critical infrastructure. Now, with what you're describing this is talking more about the British situation, but this is also now very much
this whole Europe, whole
the West.
The whole West.
From what you're describing, are you saying that the U.S., let's say U.S., it's able to contain this to be able to do what it's doing?
Only when the U.S. practices its role outside. U.S.
Okay, so it needs to continue.
That's containment called. To contain internal turmoil, you have to be active outside. So anyone, because during this crisis outside the world,
It will make the unity to the people. Some type
it will
of
make the unity, and it will justify suppressing the people by force. Haven't you seen what happened in LA?
oh, it's happening to us. But
LA.
I mean,
Well,
you know,
no, I'm talking to LA by
I understand
force,
that,
by
but I mean, I'm
force.
saying it's even more real
Yeah.
than just because of the kind of discussions we are having. That itself is becoming a problem
Yeah.
to some people. But so for United States security itself, this becomes necessary.
For United States internal security, it's necessary, and for external hegemony.
It's necessary.
So the external hegemony means more resources, more wealth, more money, because now it controls. It controls the whole area, the whole Middle East. Middle East is the richest part of the world as a region. Is the richest region in terms of almost everything. And it has also the most potential threat to the world, which is Islam. Now, Islam is not a threat, but an Islamic state will put an end to all the atrocities and all the theft that's happening of the resources, not only of the Middle East, but the whole world. We will be, as we believe in Islam, that this Islam is to bring justice for all, not only for Muslims.
So are you...
So that's why...
Are you saying that this is... before I go to the next point, because at one point I remember having a podcast with you discussion that, I guess after 9/11, Americans almost created another... I mean, not almost. They created a boogeyman. And you said we were that at that time.
Right.
So are we going to go through another one after now, especially after the assassination of Charlie? Can they use this event like October 7th was used to create, because I'm sure you're watching what's happening, and there's been rifts yesterday. Actually, yesterday there was someone killed 12 people. They don't know exactly who did it. It was in a homeless encampment. With constant, they at least with almost many different commentators on this issue, they're really worried that this could create very political violence is very real in this country. Are you saying that now they could bring back Islam in the news again in order to create some type of a unity at home?
No, I doubt it. I think it's already the Islamic
overused.
The Islamic card has been used to its fullest extent. Today it can fire back. I think now they have the Ukraine war going on.
But that you're saying it's by design.
Oh yeah, it's by design, because it will help two things. Number one, contain Europe. Number two, keep the local public that look, now it's not time to rise and make some violence, and if you do so, we can crush you. And that's what I was trying to say. Where the United States
the blame on Russia or
send the police or the National Guards into LA, that's their justification, that we're not in a position where we can allow these things to happen. We have to take it by force. So
it's interesting. You're saying this is not to just take care of crime.
No.
As proclaimed.
No.
This is
more
of
force, of course. Show of that we are. Once we are in.
Who's the show of force to?
Because show force to the public.
It's mostly been in African American neighborhoods.
It doesn't matter.
And now Spanish. This has been.
The idea is not. Sometimes the target is not the essence. The essence is the use of power.
Right.
I am willing to use my power.
Okay. So this is to show of power to everybody else.
Yes.
But let's let certain group feel the pain, but it's actually everybody else.
We say in some proverb in Arabic, I'm insulting the neighbor, but you take care of, you beware that my insult or assault can reach you. So if I am assaulting a little kid, that means I can assault anyone. Now the kid is too weak to respond to me, but it's a show of my power. So that's what the United States is doing. And then again, one more time, the issue just to relate it to our issue here.
No, because it is related in many ways. I mean,
is that if America stops pursuing external interest by the force, by the power, by all the hegemony, then the internal conflicts will rise above the floor. And because those conflicts are so huge, they show up every now and then as bubbles. They bubble out. Like the January 6, 2000, during the election, when Trump lost the elections, that was one of these bubbles. And this is Charlie issue is another bubble. There was a time when Kennedy was assassinated. It was also a bubble. And it took the assassination of a president so that everybody has to put some stuff in his mouth and shut up.
This is interesting. Again, I mean, it's a whole podcast by itself because, the questioning to, I think his name is Taylor, the one who's been arrested for killing. They keep asking him to find, they want to know who's really behind this. And, he's not cooperating is what they keep saying. And he's not talking. And this is becoming very problematic for in the investigators these things don't happen it's not a lone wolf.
No, it's not. No, this is state run crimes. The state, the state, which means the country, and the one who controls the country, which is the CIA, the deep state, the security forces. These are the ones who make a decision how to quell a potential uprising. America in 1960s, because of the Vietnam War, which was just happening, and the Soviet show force, they were inside absolutely unhappy, and they see that the wealth is becoming accumulated in the hands of only a few. So something had to be done. Now you can take the life of your most intellectual presidents ever, Kennedy,
right?
Most intellectual, smart politician, but that's irrelevant to those guys who want to maintain what is called the homogeneity of the U.S. So what the idea here is, America today, and will continue until there is a real power that comes out, and that's where I am talking about the 1+0. Once it comes and provides a real challenge, not fake. Soviet Union made a fake challenge.
Actual ideological.
Real means ideological, political, economic. It's able to provide the world with an economic system policy,
actual infrastructure,
as a model which is working. It's not fake like the one that the socialists came up with. It is real, and justice is not a rhetoric or a show.
Right.
Once someone comes with that system, that will put a great challenge on the U.S. And that itself could lead to this internal bubble to grow up and become a big issue inside the United States and Europe at large. And not because...
so let me ask you this, Abdullah, this 1 point or 1+0. I'm going to come from maybe a different angle here. Europe is going through its own crisis. And one of the, at least one of the main culprits for them is the Muslim migration to Europe. And I think, do you think what they mean by this is that the Muslims in Europe have been able to present an ideological alternative to using Europe's idea of freedom to the Muslim lands? Is this a problem? Is this the real issue? Because look, Europe needs population. It's dying. it needs people, because I mean, literally, it cannot survive the way it's going. I mean, it's going to be empty it'll be easier to take Europe than the Middle East the way it's going. So I mean, so at the same time, they need that population, but their concern is this population is unique to what they're expecting, maybe from I don't know, China or something else.
Well, this is not new idea. This has been talked about long time in Europe.
No, meaning and a population,
yeah.
Not just a population, but an aware population. Because most of the people who are coming from the Muslim world,
demographic,
but it's an intellectual one.
Yeah,
the people
fine.
who are moving to Europe they're not just average people.
No, it's no longer the immigration, no longer, especially in Germany. It is the birth rate of the Muslims who migrated 50 or 60 or 100
prior to the immigration issues. Huh?
And as I said, this is not new. I remember Bernard Lewis, one of the Orientalists and famous British Orientalist, moved to America back in the end of the 80s, and he opened a strategic institute, Islamic Studies Institute in Philadelphia. And his main theme was that the next wave that will threaten Europe is not to face a Muslim army on the walls of Vienna, as it used to be the case in 1653 until 1673, which is the Ottoman army. It will be the Muslims, the Muslim migration and birth inside Europe and inside America, who are going to run the daily affairs. And he brought actually some examples, and they had some photos, just like a drawing. He showed a beach in the Riviera of France, where the people who are laying down were Muslim women with their hijab. And he was actually making fun of that. And he was telling the small audience about less than 15 professors and intellectuals at the time at one of the universities in Wisconsin. He was telling them, how would you like that? To go to the beach and see this? And then he continues, you will go to the cashier, and then the woman there, the cashier, before she starts doing your transaction, she will say Bismillah, and when she ends, she says Alhamdulillah. How would you like that? He said, this is what's threatening Europe. That means this culture itself of seeing Muslims around, that is a threat. Why? Because Europe is racist internally. Europe is about the racial discrimination against every race. And that's what the Crusade Wars were. That's what the whole fights between the Roman Empire at some point and the others trying to occupy other countries. So Europe is internally built on racism, on the highest level of the white color, for the white man. And that's what we used to sometimes listen to the Elijah Muhammad talking the white man as the devil, or using the word white man, and we say, why would he say that? He did not invent the word. This word, the white man, the white supremacy, is inherently built within Europe and the US culture, and the so-called the West in general. So that today, what they are saying, what this article is saying is, look, don't expect the Muslim armies to march into London or Paris or Brussels or any or Sweden or Norway. The threat is already there because Muslims are here.
They're not going.
And that itself shows the enmity of Europeans as such to this part of the world, which is called the Muslim world, that has moved its population into the West. Whereas when the Islamic State was alive, Islamic State integrated and accepted all races, all colors, black, white, red, you name it, from China all the way to Italy, all the way to all countries. It doesn't matter. And that's the threat. The threat, not the threat to the land, it's the threat to the concept, to the ideology. Islam will, once it rises up, and that's the 1+0, Islam alone, that's the one, and no other ideology will be next to it. It doesn't need the support of America or the support of Russia or the support of China. Islam would provide a challenge to the current ideological status of the world. The white supremacy, the racial discrimination, the financial acquisition, the acquisition of finances in the hands of the few, allowing, look, the world lives in a manner that it can sink today, the entire world can sink below the sea level on one shot, because the finances, the money, all the money that the people had are useless, absolutely. All it takes is one big announcement somewhere that the dollar no longer will be supported by the oil, and we are not going to provide any backup for any dollar whoever has. How many dollars in the world are there? More than $500 trillion.
I mean, this is the major economy, base economy.
So then everything will collapse. And here comes a new ideology that says, forget about all of that. All of this wealth is virtual, is null and void, and does not is not equal even a cent.
Sheikh, because let's keep it now next 10 minutes here, and then we'll end this. But this is the major 10 minutes. The 1.0 that you're talking, or 1 plus 0 that you're discussing, the Muslim, what triggers change? I mean, because so far what we are looking at in the Muslim lands, I mean, what needs to happen?
Okay.
Anymore, and
that's a good question. Look, I will provide the answer in a different way. The model the U.S. started with, which started early 1950, late 1949, which they called it the Truman Doctrine. Until today, despite the power, military power, the intelligence, the ability, the reach ability to the whole world, until today, in the Middle East in particular, it has not materialized completely. It's still in the making.
True. I mean, that's the case. I mean, that's the chaos we see.
3 years after that, 1953, the model was announced, the 1 plus 0. After that, 1953, many people tell us, oh, since 1953, that's about 70 years, you have not achieved that 1 plus 0, the rise of a Khilafah state that unites the Muslims. There could be millions of answers to this, but the main answer is, look, creating an ideological state within this world that's full of crises, which had been running for the last 70 or more, if the United States, with all its power, had not achieved that objective yet, then don't blame me that it's taking me too much time. Yes, it takes time. It takes time to navigate, and after the navigation to break through. So you need to navigate. The navigation is being done. It has been, the idea has navigated through the Muslim world at large, in particular in the Middle East. All the isms, nationalism, regionalism, capitalism, have shown that it had failed. Today, the Muslims, especially when they have seen what's happening in Gaza, and the entire Muslim world is so crippled, cannot even make a single move to save one child, then now the Muslims, all of them are coming back. Oh, the reason is not the power of Israel. The reason is not the cruelty of the Israeli army. The reason is not the support of the United States to Israel. The reason is we are not able to use our internal resources, including our armies, our wealth, etc., to at least save one child. So now it's what we have been promoting and provoking and disseminating for the last 70 years. Today it's becoming a reality. People are touching it with their own hands. Yesterday, I had to convince you ideologically to tell you about the to read part of the verses of the Quran and the Hadith and to explain and to look at the history. And then you throughout these 5 minutes of talk, your brain probably had gone somewhere, so you did not even listen to me. But today, you don't heed those arguments. All you need to do is just to point this out. Just one question to anyone in the Muslim world. Tell him, if that Khilafah state, which we have talked about for the last 70 years, had been done, would this happen to our brothers and sisters in Gaza or in the West Bank or in Lebanon or in Syria? Will tell you immediately no. But then they would say, where is it? I said, okay, you are asking me where is it? Because yesterday when I talked to you about that, you were not willing to listen. And I have talked to you about this. For the last 70 years, your ears and eyes were focused on some of these stupid leaders who now you know that they have surrendered not their will, but they have surrendered your own people and population to a slaughterhouse. So now you realize that. So what I am saying is, it is not the weakness of the idea. It's the difficulty of...
I never mentioned, I didn't mean weakness of the idea. I said, what triggers? I mean, look, even formation of the state of Israel, for the longest time, the Zionists tried very hard to instill this idea of a state of Israel. It wasn't working amongst the Jews for the longest time until Holocaust takes place. And that event convinced, it happened in a way that convinced the Jews that they do need something independent, something that can protect them.
Well, that's another
here's the thing, but then the Zionists were able to capitalize on those feelings, on those emotions in order to what they did. But I guess what I'm saying, there are triggers.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there are triggers, but there are difference. There is difference. The Israel in 1948 was not created by the Jews, not even by the Zionists.
By the British.
It was Britain, and Britain who created that. And on the day of the rise of the so-called, now the state has to be declared, the British generals who were ruling over the Arab armies, they ordered all the armies to withdraw. So this is...
I mean, there's treachery from day one.
Yeah.
There's treachery from day one. But I guess I'm giving an example of at least, look, you had to convince 6 million Jews to go to Israel.
Oh, that's why they created the Holocaust.
Fine. That's the trigger.
And you know who created the Holocaust?
I mean, it's the West in general.
No. That's not true. Somebody has to re-look the history. And I know I will be questioned about that at airports or different places. I heard a Jewish journalist back in 1984, when I was at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and he had all the documents with him. At the time, there were no faxes, no Xerox, nothing. So he still has the documents, where he said a Jewish delegation met with the Hitler cabinet and asked them to do something about forcing the migration of the Jews from Europe into Israel. And their statement was, which he quoted that, look, a goat tied up to one of the poles next to a temple in Jerusalem is worth more than 1,000 lives of Jews. A goat. That's a statement by Shamir, who was a prime minister of Israel at one point in time, and one other guy from the people who eventually led the state or became part of it. What I am saying is, look, nothing equates to the rise of a state that has its own ideology, idea, and thoughts and system based on engraved in the hearts and the minds of people, and at the same time pressed or pressured down and fought against,
oppressed, starvation,
and depressed and oppressed by elites who were assigned a rulership. And most of the elites in the Muslim world, they were assigned, especially in the Middle East, they were assigned their roles almost at the same time when Israel was created. or even was thought to create it in order to protect this new entity. This new entity would never have existed without these rulers. So now what I'm saying, this 1+0, it started almost 2 or 3 years after the 4+2 or the American dream of the Middle East, which is still going on. It has not materialized yet. And in my opinion, now I will mix my political ideas with my Islamic ideology. Islamically, I believe that this Middle East, this place, will witness the rise of the Khilafah one more time, certainly.
Yeah.
And if that 4+2 model of the US comes in, then this concept may be delayed or postponed, God knows for how long. So now, the fact that yet there is one element continues to work against it, which is Israel. That, which means they are not accepting a ceasefire or a peace. They want to continue the war, looking for their own dreams. Then the Middle East will remain in hostility and boiling. And that is the environment in which a new state can rise now or within the next few years. But if that Middle East stabilizes the geopolitical stability the way America wants it, it's going to be tough. Now, tough does not mean impossible. Tough never means impossible.
It can just elongate the situation.
And as you mentioned that the question about the vulnerability of the internal affairs in the United States and in Europe, the economic type.
I mean, I know this will go into another discussion, but even, the Federal Reserve today, it lowered the interest rates today, this morning, which is very strange to what's happening in the economy. Then they're saying that it might even lower it even more, which means they're really trying to do everything they can to prevent a recession taking place, or at least
a crash
taking place. So there's a lot going on, Talha, and this, who knows, we may be close to a very dynamic change in the Muslim world, and we hope and pray that Allah
and there is also
gives us the opportunity to see it.
One thing which I think I will have it in the final conclusion of the book, that this war that they created with the Ukraine today, Britain in particular, it's trying to globalize it.
I mean,
and once that happens,
the Russian drones in Poland.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a very strange.
Yeah, that's a globalization attempt
by Britain.
It's the ones who is behind it is Britain. They are the ones who kept saying all the time that NATO has to get involved. We have to get involved to protect Ukraine. Of course, Britain does not fight. Britain fights to the last French soldier, as history says. They fight for the last Polish now and Americans.
So is this to involve the United States to expand?
Yes, because Britain does not. Britain, actually, we are trying to sabotage the U.S. plan in the Middle East because we have our own model that we want to create.
And the Muslim.
Yeah. Britain does not have a model. Britain has a revenge. Britain wants to take a revenge against the United States because the United States is the one that expelled Britain from Libya, from Tunis, from Egypt, from Iran, from Iraq, and now from Jordan. It's working with that, and on the Gulf, from Saudi Arabia, from all over. America stripped Britain out of its not only pants but even from underwear. They did not leave anything to cover its behind. And so that's why Britain has every reason to try to create a mess in the world where the United States becomes physically involved. And that's what the US keeps doing. No, NATO will not be involved. NATO will not participate. The only thing we can do, we can support Ukraine to stand up on its feet. So that issue can make a big mess in the world, and then you can rise up. The financial collapses can happen, and then you can take advantage of that. internal conflicts in America, as you say, where this bubble can grow up above the sea level, even despite all the attempts to suppress it, because it's happening. I mean, it can be triggered, and today it's being triggered among the same WASP people, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It's not against
well, they're trying to create the left and right.
Yeah. Fine, but left and right, they are both same
Right.
same
Elite on both
voice.
sides, they're white.
They are both elites. So today, once this happens among the elites, and it's not elites against the blacks or against the Mexicans or against the Latinos or against the Muslims or against all of these, or all of this now is happening within the big head rather than on the
Right.
in the toes.
Right. And this is
And all of these are options. Look, and then in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal explicitly says, لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد. Never be intimidated by this power show of the big powers. This is temporary. Nothing is permanent. And history says, recent history, we have seen the collapse of the Soviet Union in 70 years of its time. We have seen the collapse of the Ottoman state after 800 years of its rise. We have seen the collapse of Britain and France, who used to colonize the entire world after the Second World War. We have seen all of that, and today it's not out of reach or out of thought that even this most oppressive power in the world, the one that claims democracy and it works against its own ideas and its own ideals even, and the one that has encouraged every wrong idea and supported every tyrant in the world, there is nothing that says it can be permanent, and then they will have their dominance all over the world. So that when I read the Quran, I find these ayat, لا يغرنك تقلب الذين كفروا في البلاد متاع قليل. This is time will pass. And there are many of these. I'm not going to go through the Quranic sessions here, but this is Allah Azza wa Jal talking, which means keep your idea up. Don't be intimidated by the superiority of the other power, because the holes in history, these holes can open at any point of time where you can pass through. History has taught us that holes can always be created, can happen. You cannot sew the world as one sheet and guarantee that there is no hole in it. It doesn't work like that. It will not happen like that.
Too many cracks. I mean, and they continue to happen.
That's why I say the 4 + 2 is a failure the moment it's born. So
And 1 + 0.
4 + 0 is a success even before it's born.
So finally, when will the book come out?
The book is, I already signed the final page on the 15th of September, a few days ago, which is my birthday.
Oh, mashallah. Okay.
So now it's the time. I'm just looking for the good publishing house, which is willing to.
How big is it, the book? How many?
It's 258 pages, including the references.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There are more than 450 references in the book
Wow.
from all over. From America.
It's in English.
It's in English until now, but once the English version is published, will be translated into Arabic, into Russian, into French, into Turkish. So
Urdu, inshallah, we hope.
And Urdu, of course, yeah.
The largest. All right, Abu Talha, it's always a pleasure to have you. It's an honor, actually. So, inshallah, we hope and pray that, it's actually very unfortunate that even sometimes even intellectual discussions like this, actually not sometimes, many times in today's time are being suppressed and oppressed, and to the point that that itself is a reason. That itself is one of the signs of decline. So we hope.
Of course, yeah, of course.
Jazakallah khair, Abu Talha. All right.
Of course, barakallah fiik.
All right, brothers and sisters, inshallah, please subscribe, make sure we need to continue with everything that's happening not only in this country but in the world. Brothers and sisters, these type of discussions are a must, and they must go on. So please support us, help us in any way you can by spreading the word, by spreading the podcast. Listen to them, comment, let us know what you're thinking, and keep us in your dua. Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Podcasts on current events, Islamic guidance, Quran tafsir, and seerah are available at islampodcasts.com as well as on iTunes. Rate, review, and comment, and let us know how we can grow in our knowledge to better serve our community. Please subscribe, share, and tell a friend about islampodcasts.com.